I call Andrew Bailey.
Thank you, Mr Chair. This is the first occasion I've had to talk on this bill, and I want to acknowledge the leadership of Honourable Michael Woodhouse, the chairmanship of Jonathan Young, all my co-members of the Select Committee, officials, and also the people who submitted on the bill and provided their time rather generously. I believe that the Select Committee has operated in a constructive and pragmatic way to achieve a bill that we're proud of. However, personally, I must say I'm disappointed at some members of the opposition who have sought to make political capital out of this bill. It is unconscionable and absolutely unnecessary. Of all the issues in this bill, covering 240 pages, I think it is important to note that we as a committee agreed on virtually all of them. And before I turn to addressing some of the specific issues in this bill, I want to first circle back to this issue of culture. If you strip away all the words in this bill, what we have sought to do is to achieve a change in the culture, and that in every workplace, in every business, throughout all of New Zealand, everyone in that place starts to think and work safely to create the right environment to keep our people safe. So the question is, how do we bring about that cultural change? This bill continues the requirement that the PCB has a primary obligation to ensure a safe working practice. That has not changed. What has changed in this bill is that we have also inserted a requirement for workers to take reasonable care in the workplace to keep themselves safe. And just as importantly, what we've asked workers to do is that in the way that they're conducting themselves in the workplace, that they do not have any adverse impact on their colleagues. So previously, the only group that was responsible was the PCBU. But in effect, this bill introduces a triumvirate of responsibility between the PCBU, the worker and the colleagues, and that is how we're going to bring about a cultural change. The next issue I would like to address is whether there should be any flexibility in the way that businesses conduct their health and safety practices, and specifically this issue of firms with fewer than 20 people, which has become rather vexed and political in its engagement. I'm disappointed with the misinformation on this aspect. So let's go back to history. When this bill was initially introduced into this House, it borrowed heavily from the Australian model law. Now, if you look at the industrial situation in Australia, it is dominated by large companies with a heavy union influence. This is not the case in New Zealand. 97% of all New Zealand businesses employ fewer than 20 people. So some members in this House seem to have a very jaundiced view on how small businesses operate in New Zealand. Small businesses are very collegial, and it's a team environment. In fact, for these small businesses to operate in any other manner would lead to their non-survival. So what we in the committee is focused on is that we want everyone in that business to start thinking, working in health and safety issues, and not leaving it just to one individual who is appointed to take up the cudgel for everyone else in that business. So for people employing fewer than 20 people, what this bill does, it introduces the possibility that they can be flexible about the way they're going to manage their health and safety environment, what policies are going to put in place, and how they're going to monitor it. In the absence of active engagement by the PCBU with the workers, and there is a statutory requirement in it, and there's a fine of up to $100,000 if they don't, workers will still be able to follow the right set out in the very prescriptive process in Schedule 1A of the bill. There is no other option for those companies who don't engage or have greater than 20 employees or who operate in high-risk industries. This involves the lawful appointment of health and safety reps and the lawful appointment of health and safety committees. And I totally agree that in those circumstances, those arrangements should survive.